Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the Clement and the Merciful, I must express myself my gratitude for being part of this Congress, which is astonishing that in this era of the time of today, we can still hear speaking about metaphysics, which in Western Europe, if we call, or where we live, is hardly possibility to express ourselves in this deepness that I realize in all the participants of this Congress, and particularly in Professor Hugin that I just heard now. And I was astonished to see how this passed from one writer to another, from Evola to Guénon, from Melchizedek to Ibn Arabi. So the possibility to have a wide range of experience, and we are happy to realize, as has been said here, that we've been called a dissident from the modern world, have a chance to express ourselves in a country astonishing from the roots in the tradition, which give us a great example to bring back to Italy eventually, in order to remove the apathy of people nowadays, and give the possibility that there is still a chance, even between European, of course, because Russia is part of Europe, to establish a renewal and a reawaken of what is the deepest merit and the deepest significance of our being here as a traditional representative of the last revelation as Islam. Now, as you ask me, how come that we came eventually to Islam, I like to answer to express the fact that we went through, when we were 20 years of age, the lecture and books from Evola to Guénon, and we had the chance to meet at least Julius Evola only twice, but once in his room and once in the university when he was already very sick. But I owe him the possibility to have had the advice of meeting some representative of the metaphysical Islamic school in Europe, as he found that my attitude was not enough political as he would have preferred. But when a research of a spiritual achievement that we realize is not only in the letters, is not only in the books, but must be purveyed in the practical experience of one real tradition. And as we hear here that naturally we are in a post-traditional age, in the same way Professor Dugin gave us the example that behind all the expression and the very sophisticated speech that we heard, there is a necessity eventually to be inside one particular tradition, and by tradition we not to deny any other tradition, we mean the orthodoxy in the etymological sense of it. And naturally this is the country where orthodoxy is still lived, I must say, in comparison to the difficulty that we have in Italy, where Christianity has taken a certain way of modernism, which is not very traditional, as we say. But naturally our gratitude goes back to René Guénon, as we call it by his Islamic name, Shaykh Wahid Yahya, And we took his first name and we named our son by his second name, with the hope that the presence, even in Italy, even a difficulty that we can face, we may be able to bring back the idea of a traditional in a country where Islam is not even officially recognized, as I had the chance to say yesterday in my speech, and with the astonishment of the people, because people know in a country where you live that Islam is recognized. They are Islamic Russian people, and they have mosques, while we are hardly the occasion and the possibility to build, as we are trying to do, the second official mosque in Milan, where we live, as the only official mosque up to now is only the one in Rome, due probably by some political arrangement by the government, together with some other Islamic arrangement. But it sounds to us more as a political adventure rather than a spiritual one. And that's this second mosque that we try to build is based on the Sufi teaching that we have received from the Shaykh Wahid in the first place, and eventually from some saint that we have the chance to meet in the Far East, in order to bring from the real Orient, from the Far East to this new order and to this new Europe, the light of the traditional teachings that we are astonished, I repeat myself, to have found here with you here, where we have the deep-rooted idea of going back to a new era, which is not the new world order naturally, but will be the new era in the eschatological idea that we heard here, without having the chance to renew a word that is difficult to make it again. But with the help of God, of Allah, we hope that the moment of the eschatology that we are all waiting for, together with our brother Jews and Christians, will reunite us with the parousia of the second coming of Sayyidina Isa, as we call Jesus Christ, that we are waiting for him to come to renew really the spirit of this old modern world. Bismillah again. In the name of God, we have to realize the fact that everything is in the hand of God. And this submission, which is the meaning of the word Islam, and even our brother Jews and Christians, where they submitted to the will of God, we can call them Muslims. And we have to rely on the barakah, on the influence of heaven over this world, because God is always regarding what is happening here in his creation. And we rather have to concentrate with the spiritual angels in a certain way, and the spiritual realities who are always present, as there's always been present the prophets from the time of Adam, who is the first Islamic prophet. Islam doesn't start with the Quranic revelation, but starts with the first man, which is also who is also the first Islamic prophet. So God never let us down without giving us prophets. From the time of Adam up to the time of Melchizedek, our Jewish friend was saying yesterday, but naturally over with Moses and Jesus and Muhammad, and there has always been presence of prophets in this chain that represent the head, as you call it, the unity, the transcendent unity of all religion. There is only one religion, we say, the Din al-Qayyima. Some young people, they were saying yesterday, why you have so many problems with the other religion? There will be not better to be just one religion for everybody. But there is one religion, is the religion of God, and is the religion of all the prophets. So never been let down from all the century, even the one that you mentioned, the 13th century. Naturally, there is a breaking of the egg from the inferior side, but we should concentrate on the goods, and knowing that we will never let down from the angel and from the prophets and from God himself, because the wish is this eschatological restoration that will come eventually if the humanity give the witness and the testimony that is still believing in what the doctrine of the different religion have given to us, and particularly not only stay on the literary expression of all the philosopher, but particularly following the example of the prophets, so that eventually we will realize that this Melchizedek that we are missing is still alive in us, and will come again in the second coming of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We belong to the way, to the organization, to a tariqah, which means a way in Arabic, is the way to God, is the way of all the saints, and our particular patron is Shaykh Abdullah Hamid Shadili, from which his descendants, from whom we took our ijaza, our blessing, has been the possibility to re-establishing again in the modern world a chance to get through initiation and to the blessing of the saints through the invocation of the name of Allah, who has been mentioned even today by our friend who is visiting north of Russia. It contains in his word and his letters the possibility of this breathing, the name, and by invoking the name of Allah in his last syllable, we'll have the chance to avoiding thinking again of ourselves, which is our problem, which we heard your father mentioning just nowadays. Our problem is individuality, and we have to get over our individuality, as he was saying, not so in the way that is mentioned today, even in Italian itself, by saying we have to cavalcare la tigre, we have to riding the tiger, but rather, as it's been also said today very cleverly, we have to kill the dragon. We have to have the example of St. George, and it's not a question of literary authors, it's a question of invoking the presence of the saints and of the prophets, as we've been mentioning already before, because this is a striking point of which we have to stick, because we have to go away from the letter, from the literature, to have a practice, to have an experience of the spirituality, which is the basic factor of every man who is made ala suratihi, as we say in Arabic, which means in the resemblance and the image of Allah Himself.